Left at the altar in a white dress, Savannah Brooks fled her small-town wedding for an abandoned bakery with a haunted past. What she discovered there wasn't just flour and fire, it was betrayal, buried secrets, and the recipe for a new life. But when the man who broke her returns and an old friend brings truths too dark to ignore, Savannah must decide, will she crumble or will she rise again? Savannah Brooks had always imagined her wedding day would begin with joy, not silence. She stood in her white dress, her heart fluttering like a trapped bird beneath her ribcage. Powdered sugar still dusted her sleeves from the pastries Aunt Louise brought in that morning. The sun filtered through the gauzy curtains of her childhood bedroom, casting golden stripes across the old wooden floor. Her mama had been fussing over seating charts, her best friend Shelby twisting her honey blonde curls into soft waves. Everything was perfect on the surface. Her phone rang. A smile rose instinctively to her lips when she saw the name, Travis. Maybe he wanted to tell her he was on his way. Maybe to say he loved her one more time before they said it in front of everyone else. Instead, there was silence, just breathing, heavy, labored, and uneven. Then his voice, soft, deliberate, like he was walking on glass. Savannah, I can't marry you. The words cracked through her like a whip. Her knees buckled slightly, the room spinning. The phone slipped from her hand and landed on the floor with a dull thud. Everything stilled. Her mama looked up from the mirror, her lipstick half finished. Her daddy froze mid-step, coffee spilling slightly over the rim of his mug. He's not coming, Savannah whispered, barely audible. Her mama's face contorted with disbelief. That's not funny, Savannah. Stop joking. I'm not, she said hollowly. He said he changed his mind. The next few minutes blurred. Crying, rushing, voices blending like a sad song played too fast. Her mama is on the phone. Shelby is reaching for her. But Savannah didn't want comfort. Couldn't take it. Her body felt like an empty vessel. Clothed in white and trembling outside, the yard was still dressed for celebration. Folding chairs lined up neatly, flower petals scattered down the makeshift aisle. Her little cousin twirled around in a pink dress, blissfully unaware. The air smelled like peach pie and blooming dogwood trees. It all felt like a cruel joke. I can't stay here, Savannah said. Where would you go? Her daddy asked. She didn't answer. Didn't need to. Her phone buzzed again. Aunt Jolene, pack your bag, darling. Her voice came through calm and steady. Come stay with me. Savannah didn't respond. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't take off the veil or even grab her shoes. She just walked down the porch steps, past the bobbing balloons, into the Georgia sun, onto a bus. She sat in the back row alone. The crumpled dress stuck to her legs. Lace scratched at her skin. The ride to Willow Creek stretched like a quiet ache. Every bump felt like another unraveling thread. The bus hissed to a stop. Jolene was already there, leaning against her dusty pickup, hair piled high, denim jacket over a floral dress. She didn't ask questions, just lifted Savannah's bag and said, "Let's get you somewhere quiet." They drove past Jolene's yellow cottage with the porch swing and wind chimes, then turned down a gravel road. Savannah's chest tightened. Where were they going? An old brick building emerged from the trees, vines climbing up its sides, paint peeling in gentle surrender. The sign above the door read Magnolia Oven. Wait, Savannah said, voice hoarse. You're leaving me here? Jolene shut off the engine and turned. You walk into my house right now, and the whole neighborhood will be over before supper. But here, nobody knows. Nobody bothers. Her hand trembled as she opened the truck door. I don't know how to be alone. Jolene's face softened. Honey, you've been alone since the moment that man left you hanging. But alone ain't always bad. Sometimes it's where you find out who you are. Inside smelled of flour, soot, and something unnameably warm. Dust danced in sunbeams. The oven, old and wide, sat in the center like a sleeping giant. A metal-framed bed is in the back room. A lavender-scented quilt. A shelf of cookbooks yellowed with time. It ain't the Ritz, Jolene said, placing the bag down. But it's yours for now. That night, Savannah sat on the edge of the bed in her ruined wedding dress, listening to the hum of silence. The bakery felt like it was holding its breath. With her, she didn't cry. Not yet. In the morning, light spilled across the worn wooden floors. The veil was gone, but the dress still clung to her like grief. She didn't take it off until noon. Then, slowly, she began to clean. She swept dust off the counters, wiped glass jars until they gleamed, and cracked the windows to let in wind. The oven caught her attention, blackened brick, thick with history. She leaned in, touching it gently. "If you could talk," she whispered, "I bet you'd have a hell of a tale." That night, she went to the general store. All eyes turned as she walked in. Small towns had ears and sharper tongues. "You must be Jolene's niece," the woman behind the counter said. Her name tag read Cheryl. "Guess I am," Savannah replied. "Heard you're staying at the old bakery." "That's unusual." "Guess I'm unusual." Cheryl laughed. "Used to sneak slices from that place back when Miss Loretta ran it. Best sourdough I ever had." The name stuck. Loretta. Back at the bakery, Savannah sat by the oven, the air thick with the scent of flour and something fainter memory. Maybe, the next morning, she asked Jolene about Miss Loretta. "Why?" Jolene asked. "I want to learn." Jolene arched an eyebrow. "She's a tough nut, but if anyone can teach you, it's her." And just like that, Savannah's new chapter found its first sentence. Savannah stood outside Miss Loretta's cottage, in Birch Hollow, hands fidgeting with the hem of her borrowed skirt. The garden out front burst with sunflowers, basil, and a stubborn little tomato vine climbing the porch rail. When the door opened, Loretta looked just like Savannah imagined, small, weary, with silver curls tucked beneath a scarf and eyes like whetted steel. "So," Loretta said, arms crossed, assessing her. "You're the runaway bride." Savannah flushed. "I'm Savannah. I heard you used to bake at Magnolia Oven. I want to learn." Loretta didn't blink. "Why?" Savannah paused. Her reasons swirled like dust motes in sunlight, too fragile to name. "Because I need to." A long beat passed. "You got shoes that can handle flour?" Loretta asked finally, and so it began. Savannah's apprenticeship was anything but romantic. Her first day was spent sweeping. Not a quick tidy up, but an hour-long scrub of every inch of Loretta's tiny bakery. "Clean workspace, clean bread," Loretta said. "Your energy's in everything you touch." Savannah didn't argue. She swept and wiped, rearranged the tools, and lined up ingredients like soldiers before a battle. She was exhausted by noon. Only then did Loretta begin. "Yeast," she said, holding up a tiny packet, "is alive. You treat it wrong, it'll punish you." They started with blooming warm water, a pinch of sugar. Too hot, and you kill it. Too cold, and it sleeps right through. Her first batch of dough was a gluey mess. The second collapsed. The third nearly burned Loretta's oven. "Stop fighting it," Loretta said. "Let it talk to you." Savannah blinked. "Dough doesn't talk." Loretta gave her a sideways glance. "Not with words. Use your hands. It'll tell you when it's ready by the end of the week." Savannah's arms ached. Her back was sore, and she had blisters on both hands. But her dough held shape. It rose. It baked. Her loaves weren't perfect, but they were hers. A tea night, back at Magnolia Oven, she cleaned the kitchen again, more gently this time. She practiced. Sometimes she cried while kneading, her grief spilling into the flour. Other times, she laughed at her own mistakes. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt like breath. The townspeople noticed. Cheryl came by and bought a sourdough. "That's got a good crust," she said, chewing. 2 days later, she returned with an order for cinnamon rolls. A retired teacher requested honey wheat. Kids knocked on the door asking for cookies. Savannah started scribbling recipes in a notebook. Each page is a small victory. One night, after finishing a batch of rosemary focaccia, she placed her hand on the oven's brick again. "You still with me?" she asked. It was still warm. Not an answer, but maybe a kind of acknowledgement. And so Magnolia Oven woke up. Be late spring. The Magnolia Oven felt like more than an abandoned bakery. It was alive, and Savannah was its heartbeat. The rhythm of mixing, rising, baking, and shaping grounded her in ways she never thought possible. She was still learning, but the town had already begun to speak her name with reverence, like she'd awakened something sacred. Still, not all whispers were sweet. It began with a letter, folded neatly in an envelope slipped beneath the door. No stamp, No return address. She found it early one morning when unlocking the bakery, her hands still dusted in flour from shaping dough in the pre-dawn quiet. It read, "Bread can't hide the truth, Savannah. Not forever." That was all. No name, no explanation. She stared at the paper until her vision blurred. Her heart knocked against her ribs like a warning drum. She stuffed the note into her apron pocket and tried to ignore it. But all day her fingers trembled slightly as she shaped loaves. The cinnamon sugar she sprinkled on rolls tasted bitter on her tongue. She didn't tell anyone. Not Jolene. Not Loretta. Not Mason. Not yet. That week, Mason came by more often. He'd lean in the bakery doorway with 2 coffees and a crooked smile. He'd help sweep or load boxes or taste new batches of bread, his feedback honest but kind. They didn't call it anything. Not love, not dating. Just a friendship that hummed beneath the surface, steady and warm, but Savannah knew better. She caught herself looking for him in the crowd, felt her chest tighten in a good way when he laughed. And she noticed how his hands always moved gently, whether he was picking up a tray or brushing a crumb from her cheek. One night, after a long day of baking, she found him waiting on the porch swing. "Busy day?" he asked. She nodded, slumping beside him. "3 orders to the school district, a dozen requests for a vegan loaf I haven't figured out yet, and a mysterious note that probably means someone's watching me." Mason's smile faded. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then told him, showed him the note. He read it twice, jaw tightening. "Do you have any idea who sent this?" "No," her voice wavered. "Could be a prank. Could be someone from back home who thinks I owe them an explanation. Do you want me to look into it?" "No," she said too quickly. "Not yet. I don't want this place to become about fear." "Not again." He nodded, but his eyes didn't leave her face. "I'll respect that," he said. "But if anything else happens, you tell me. No secrets." She nodded, and when their fingers brushed on the porch swing's armrest, neither of them pulled away. 2 days later, a second letter arrived, tucked inside a bag of flour that had been delivered early. Again, no name. "You built your life on ashes, but ashes don't stay buried. He's watching." Savannah dropped the bag. Flour exploded in a ghostly cloud across the bakery floor, covering her boots, her apron, even the scar on her wrist from where she'd burned herself on the oven a week ago. She stood there, heart pounding, breathing in dust. He's watching. She didn't need the note to name Travis. Her instincts screamed it. That evening, she drove to her old town. Jolene tried to talk her out of it. "Let sleeping ghosts lie," she'd said, but Savannah needed to see it for herself. She parked outside Travis's parents' home. It looked the same: red shutters, manicured hedges, porch swing too perfect to ever be used. But the air felt different. Stale. No car in the driveway. No movement. She sat there for 15 minutes. No one came or left. Then she noticed the mailbox. Flag was up. She got out, heart thudding, walked over, and opened it. Empty. But beneath the mailbox, tucked in the grass, she saw something. Another note. Folded, damp from dew. "Regret makes people strange. Love makes them dangerous." No signature. No address. Just words. Savannah didn't go inside. She didn't knock. She got back in her car and drove until her knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. Back in Willow Creek, the bakery was glowing. Mason had stayed late, finishing the delivery prep she'd left behind. "You okay?" he asked as she walked in. "No," she said honestly, "but I'm here." She sat beside him, resting her head on his shoulder, and for a long moment, the world stopped spinning. "Tell me something," she said quietly. "If your past came knocking, if it started slipping under your door, what would you do?" Mason didn't answer immediately. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded photograph. It was old, worn, a man in uniform, military, standing beside a boy with Mason's eyes. "My brother," he said. "Gone 10 years now. I still dream about him sometimes." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I spent years running from the grief, until one day I just stopped and said, if it's going to live in me, I better give it a room. A small one, but a room." Savannah looked at him. Looked. "You're not just here for the bread, are you?" "No," he said simply. "I'm here for the woman who makes it." The words settled into her chest like heat from the oven. That night, Savannah went through every note again. She laid them out on the bakery counter like puzzle pieces. Something was off. The handwriting was neat. Too neat. The letters are too uniform, like printed or traced. And all of them were on the same kind of paper, ivory, linen grain, not something Travis would use. That realization should have comforted her. But it didn't. Because if Travis wasn't sending the notes, then who was? Outside, a shadow moved. Across the bakery window, a figure too quick to see clearly. She ran to the door, yanked it open. Nothing. Just the wind. Just the scent of bread cooling and a faint fluttering in her chest that felt like dread. Wearing Sunday clothes, the next morning, she found the bakery's back door unlocked. She always locked it. Always. Nothing was missing, but her wedding dress, the one she had stored in the back closet, was gone. In its place, hanging from a single nail on the door, was a slice of bread, carefully cut, lightly toasted, and burnt into the surface with a branding iron. Still rising, Savannah screamed, and the bakery, her sanctuary, echoed the sound like a warning. Savannah didn't sleep the night the wedding dress vanished. She sat at the bakery counter, staring at the slice of toast someone had branded with "Still Rising." It was mocking her. Whoever had left it didn't just want to frighten her, they wanted her to unravel. She thought about calling the police. But what would she say? That someone left her a threatening breakfast? Instead, she called Jolene. "What do you mean the dress is gone?" Jolene's voice was tight, protective. "I mean, someone came in. They didn't take money, didn't break anything, just left a message, burned into a piece of bread." Silence hummed on the other end. "You still think it's Travis?" Jolene asked. Savannah closed her eyes. "I don't know. The handwriting, the details, it doesn't feel like him. But who else would want to rattle me like this?" By morning, Savannah had locked every door and window. Mason brought in extra lighting for the back alley and installed a motion detector over the rear entrance. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said gently. Savannah met his eyes. "I won't be afraid of ghosts." "You're not. But someone's trying to make sure you are." She didn't respond. Instead, she set out the cinnamon rolls for the day's rush. Life had to go on. She wouldn't let fear stop the rise. That afternoon, Savannah visited Loretta. The old woman was pruning lemon balm in her herb bed. "You look like a girl about to jump out of her skin," she said without turning around. Savannah told her everything. The letters, the toast, the dress. Loretta listened silently, then stood and dusted off her hands. "You think bread's just about comfort?" "It's not," she said. "Bread is ancient. It's war. It's resurrection. And it doesn't rise unless it's been punched down first." Savannah blinked. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying, maybe you're not supposed to hide from this. Maybe you're supposed to face it and bake through it." That night, Savannah stayed late and did just that. She made challah, braiding it tight like a shield. She made crusty French loaves slashed with a knife like she was carving out fear. She made sweet rolls filled with pecan and bourbon glaze, hoping to dull the bitter edge of her nerves. At 10 a.m., she finally slept, curled on a cot in the back, the scent of yeast and sugar in the air. She woke to screaming, but it wasn't her own. Smoke. Not thick, but enough to send her stumbling. The oven. No, not the oven. The window. Its curtain was singed, black around the edges. Someone had set a small fire, just enough to trigger fear. Not flames. In the ash beneath the window was another note, scrawled in darker ink this time. "You bake lies. The past is hungrier than you think." Savannah's knees buckled. She clutched a counter for balance. Enough. She called Mason. When he arrived, she handed him the note. In her silence, he didn't ask questions. He just said, "Pack a bag." "No," she said firmly. "I'm not leaving. You can't stay here alone." "I'm not. I have the oven. I have bread. I have me." Mason looked at her, really looked. "Then we need a plan." The next morning, Savannah posted a sign. "Closed today. Private event." She called Jolene, called Loretta, even Cheryl. And when they arrived, Savannah told them everything. Then she baked. All day, with Jolene prepping dough, Loretta watching the oven like a hawk. and Cheryl answering the door only for deliveries. They weren't just baking for customers anymore. They were baking for War.by evening. The bakery was full, tables lined with warm loaves, cookies, and steam from coffee pots, and Savannah, standing in the center, handed out samples with a smile that didn't shake. They were watching. She knew it. Whoever it was. And now she was watching back. She stepped outside into the fading gold of sunset and placed something carefully on the porch railing, a loaf of sourdough, and stuck inside it, like a flag, a new note, one Savannah had written herself. You tried to burn me, but I'm still rising. Come and get me. The air was thick with cinnamon and tension. Savannah stood by the window where the fire had been set, arms crossed tightly, her eyes scanning the street. No note. Today, no smirking slice of toast, just silence and the weight of anticipation. Inside, Magnolia oven bustled with cautious defiance. Jolene chopped apples for pie fillings. Loretta shaped baguettes like she was sharpening swords. Even Cheryl took off her rings and rolled dough, muttering, "Ain't nobody scaring us out of a kitchen." But Savannah's heart wasn't in the baking today. It was in the shadows. That evening, Mason returned with something clutched in his hand, a slip of paper, stained and wrinkled. I found this in your alley trash, he said. It's not new, but thought you should see it. Savannah unfolded it slowly. It was a torn page from an old wedding program. The print was faded, but her name was still clear. Savannah Grace Brooks, scrawled in black ink across it. You never should have said yes. Her knees went weak. Where did you find this? Wedged behind the trash bin, like someone tossed it quickly. It's old. Maybe from the day you moved in? Savannah's hands shook. Someone's been watching since the beginning. Loretta stepped forward. Her eyes narrowed. This ain't just some prank, sugar. Someone's trying to rattle you loose. Savannah nodded, her mouth dry. It's working. That night, she returned to the bakery alone. The others had begged her not to, but she needed space to think. Or maybe she needed to stop running. She pulled out the old recipe book she'd found tucked behind a cabinet. It had belonged to Miss Loretta, the original Loretta, not her mentor. Each page was a work of heart and hands, notes scribbled in the margins like breadcrumbs through time. As she turned a page, something fluttered out. A faded photograph, a group of women in aprons, standing in front of the Magnolia oven. One of them was Miss Loretta, beaming, and beside her, unmistakably, her mother. Savannah stared. There was no mistaking it. The same auburn hair, the same half-dimpled smile. And beneath the photo, in pencil, June 1987, our last summer together. 1,000 questions bloomed in her chest. Why had her mother never mentioned this? Why had she never told Savannah she once baked here? And why was this photo hidden? The bell above the bakery door jingled softly. Savannah froze. She hadn't unlocked the door. Hello? She called, voice low, tight. And no answer. She stepped toward the front, her heart in her throat. Then she saw it, a muffin, placed on the counter. Just one, blueberry, still warm, and a note beneath it. Taste the truth. You've been fed lies long enough. She didn't scream, didn't cry, just stood, the sound of her heartbeat loud in her ears. She turned back to the kitchen, locked the door, and grabbed the phone. Mason, I think whoever's doing this, they know my family. The next day, Savannah drove to her parents' house in Marigold. Her mother answered in a satin robe, surprised and visibly flustered. I need to ask you something, Savannah said without preamble. Why was your picture in the Magnolia oven's old cookbook? Her mother paled. I don't know what you mean. You worked there, back in the 80s. Why didn't you ever tell me? Silence. Then softly. Because it was a painful time. Things happened. People got hurt. Like who? Savannah demanded. Her mother shook her head, tears brimming. I made mistakes. With people I trusted. With a man I thought loved me. The oven saved me, and it broke me. Savannah stared at her, stunned. Is that why you hated that I wanted to go back? Why do you push for the big wedding, the perfection, the fantasy. Her mother looked away. I just didn't want you to end up like me. Savannah turned, her voice steel. Well, I did, and I'm still here. And whoever's trying to scare me out of that place knows about you. Back at Magnolia Oven, Savannah stood in front of the old brick oven once more. Everything felt different now. Someone was digging into her family's buried past and using it to break her. But they didn't realize she had fire at her back and rising in her bones. She pulled out the old photo and pinned it on the wall above her counter. This place wasn't just a bakery. It was a battlefield. And Savannah was done baking for peace. She was ready to serve revenge. Fresh and hot, Savannah didn't sleep the night after the muffin appeared. She sat by the oven, staring at the crumb-covered counter like it might whisper the truth. Whoever had placed that muffin in her bakery, whoever wrote "Taste the truth. You've been fed lies long enough." Her mother knew Magnolia Oven, knew her. The next morning, Jolene found herself half asleep in a chair, a cold cup of coffee in hand. Girl, you look like a ghost that's been chewed and spit out. Savannah didn't even smile. Someone broke in, left this. She held out the note. Jolene read it silently, her lips tightening. Did you tell the sheriff? I told Mason. He's coming by later. Jolene folded the note and slipped it into her purse. This isn't just about Travis anymore. Savannah nodded. This feels older. Mason arrived late that afternoon, sleeves rolled, face serious. He walked the perimeter, checked the locks, and dusted for fingerprints with a kit from the station but found nothing usable. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. It could be someone from back then, Savannah said. From when my mom worked here. Mason raised an eyebrow. She never told me she used to bake. She didn't tell me either. They stood in silence for a beat. Then Savannah's voice dropped. She said she made mistakes with a man she trusted. Mason rubbed his jaw. Think it could be family related? I don't know. But whoever this is, they want me to uncover something or fall apart trying. That night, she pulled down the old recipe book again. She turned every page, looking for more clues, anything her mother might have left behind. Between two parchment sheets, something was tucked. A folded newspaper clipping, brittle and yellowing. The headline read, Willow Creek man dies in bakery fire, suspected arson. The article was short. A man named Harland Bates, a local handyman, died in a fire that started behind Magnolia Oven in 1988. The source of ignition was unknown, but police suspected foul play. No charges were ever filed. Savannah's fingers trembled as she read Harland Bates. The name meant nothing, but the date did, right around the time her mother stopped working here. Savannah called her mother the next morning. I need to ask about someone, she said. Harland Bates. There was silence on the other end. Then a shaky breath. I thought that name was buried for good. You knew him. He was trouble, charming trouble, the kind of foolish girl thinks she can fix. Savannah's throat tightened. Did you love him? I thought I did, until he started stealing from the register, until he hurt Miss Loretta. When I told him I was done, he threatened to burn the place down. Savannah's pulse raced. And then he died in a fire at the bakery. I wasn't there when it happened, her mother whispered. But some people, they still think I was. Later that day, Savannah found Loretta outside in her garden, trimming basil with a pair of rusted scissors. Did you know Harland Bates? She asked, trying to sound casual. Loretta didn't answer immediately. I knew his type, she said. At last, greedy, slick, thought the oven would make him rich. Savannah frowned. But this place was never about money. Loretta nodded. Exactly. That's why it made him angry. Did my mom burn it down? Loretta paused. Her eyes, usually sharp, softened. No, but she could have, and no one would have blamed her. That night, Savannah couldn't sleep again. The oven ticked quietly as it cooled. She pulled out flour and eggs and sugar, anger kneading its way into each movement. She didn't even realize what she was making until the scent hit her. Blueberry muffins, the same kind that had been left for her. She stared at the batter-streaked bowl. Was this a message? A warning? A challenge? When the muffins came out golden and fragrant, she placed one on a plate, just like the intruder had. She took a bite, and that's when she tasted it. Nutmeg. Her heart stopped. Only one person used nutmeg in blueberry muffins, Shelby, her former best friend, her maid of honor, the one person who had vanished after the wedding disaster. Savannah dropped the muffin, hands numb. She hadn't thought of Shelby in weeks, but now she couldn't stop. Savannah held the muffin in her hand, her thoughts spiraling. The nutmeg wasn't just a spice, it was a fingerprint. Shelby, the woman who vanished after Savannah's wedding fell apart. The one person who knew the muffin recipe because they'd created it together one late summer night in college, laughing through wine and memories. Shelby had once told her, "Nutmeg gives it soul. Most people are too scared to use it, so why now? Why this? Why the riddles?" Savannah waited until sunrise before she called Shelby's last known number. It rang once, twice, then hello? Her voice, older, sharper, but undeniably Shelby. "It's Savannah," she said. "We need to talk." They met that evening in the shadow of the bakery. Shelby stepped out of a Navy rental car. She wore a trench coat, her hair shorter, darker. "I didn't think you'd come," Savannah said. "I shouldn't have left," Shelby replied, eyes glassy. "But after what I found out." Savannah frowned. "What did you find out?" Shelby pulled a worn journal from her coat. "This belonged to Harland Bates. I found it in my dad's attic last year. Your mom didn't kill him, but someone else did, and they used your family's bakery to hide it." Savannah opened the journal, her breath catching. Names, dates, transactions, secrets, and there, one page marked in red ink. Magnolia Oven, April 1988. Payoff failed. "They were laundering money," Shelby said. "Your mom tried to stop them. The fire was meant to scare her. But Harlan double-crossed the wrong man." Savannah felt the ground shift beneath her. "So why the muffin?" "The note? To push you," Shelby said softly. "Because you were giving up. I knew the only way to wake you up was through the oven. Through what you loved." Savannah stepped back, overwhelmed. "You should have told me. I didn't know how. I panicked. I disappeared." "I'm sorry." Silence hung between them. Then Savannah spoke, voice steady. "You helped me remember who I am. That oven saved me. But it doesn't have to hold our secrets anymore." 2 weeks later, Magnolia Oven reopened not as a memory, but a movement. Savannah and Shelby co-owned the new shop, Second Rise Bakery. The sign out front read, "Fresh starts served daily." People came for the bread, but they stayed for the feeling, hope, warmth, forgiveness. Savannah no longer wore white lace or looked for answers in old recipe books. She looked forward, toward her future, toward mornings filled with rosemary loaves and coffee chatter, because sometimes the best revenge is rising again.